The Crash Course Podcast is brought to you in part by DerbyParts.com, Smashmasters, Derby Parts, and Derby Inc. Magazine. Live it, breathe it, be it, Derby Inc. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby Podcast, recorded live at the FingerLinks1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, good day. This is the 21st edition of the Crash Course Podcast on FingerLinks1.com. Hopefully everybody over there can hear. We got a whole full house tonight. We got some in-studio guests, and then we've also got some folks waiting in the wing. The 2013 Sandbagger of the Year award winner, Rick Engelhardt, is joining us here.
Yeah, Rick, you deserve that all day, dude. I worked hard for that.
Pete Hansen making the drive up from Pennsylvania to share the couch with the one and only Josh Decker. He picked up the Smashed Empire Films Driver of the Year award at the Owego banquet here on Saturday. Brian Tompkins.
Josh Decker was Driver of the Year?
No, Pete was.
You gave it to Pete over Josh Decker?
Yeah, I did.
I'm okay with that, actually.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why.
I wasn't even
We've gone over this a bunch of times. In order to be eligible for the year-end awards, you have to have an in-car camera on your car. And Josh won't let me put an in-car camera on because it brings him good luck. Or brings him bad luck.
Exactly.
Mike, my in-car camera was the reason why his car wouldn't start when he backed off the line in Broome County in 2012. And from then on, I've never been near his car.
You stepped on the distributor, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think I came anywhere near it. And
hey, these aren't working, just so you know. I don't know if you've seen that.
I see that. That's fine.
Are they working live?
Does that work better?
I'll take
There we
that
go.
one. I'll take that one.
He is not only the Derby Rain Man, I think he's like a electronics Yoda.
A Yoda? Is that
Yoda.
do I want that?
Yeah, absolutely. That means you're like the ultimate power of electronics.
I have the Force.
Hey, listen. I'm going to jump in here. We have a huge show today, packed show. I have something here for Chris. Chris doesn't even know about it.
Oh, no.
Hurry up and get that done. Are you getting Jimmy Johnson on, or what are you doing?
I actually, the phone disconnected, so I'm bringing it back right now.
Well, I'll wait for you then. No, I need you, actually. This is part of you, actually.
This is you.
Well, did everybody have a good time at Terry Valia's banquet? Because it is Terry's show.
Yeah. Your phone, I don't know if
your mic's not working.
I don't know if your mic's working.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, anyways, a banquet. For anyone that missed the banquet, I was in tears for like 7 hours straight or 8 hours. I mean, I had such a great time. And I've said it about 5 times on Facebook, but it's so much fun to drink with 50 Derby guys because we're all the same mentality. We all got lips on us and we're just chattering and no one backs down. And it gets real fun in there. I mean, eventually it's time to go.
John Kelly made a lot of friends.
John Kelly is in some trouble. I'm going to tell him that right now.
Yeah.
John Kelly just went way past anything that Colton ever thought about getting in terms of heat from the crash course, I think.
And just so everybody knows, we were at the bar. There was an after party at the bar and everybody was there.
It's at the Rainbow, and by the way, it's not a gay bar.
No,
just so everybody
it's actually a good place. I mean, they need to change the name.
Many people ask that.
But I just hear people screaming and yelling and getting all fired up. So, of course, I go to investigate. And it is, at that time, maybe only 10 or 12 New York guys surrounding one Massachusetts guy. I think he was from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And this guy is telling every single one of us.
I believe it's Taunton, Massachusetts. I've got his home address if you need it.
Yeah, please send it to me. He told every single one of us and pointed right at you and said, I will smoke you. I will junk you. I'm not scared of you. And then Brett Relier got involved and then eventually called Pete over. And I think when he called Pete over, it was pretty much the end of the conversation. But at the end of it, there was 25 New York guys surrounding one Massachusetts guy. It's like, you better be quiet, buddy.
And he was holding his own.
He did not. Balls of steel. I'm going to give him that much.
He's
got
definitely
balls
got big
of steel.
balls. I will all day long at the big balls.
And I have to give credit to New York guys because everyone kept their calm. Yeah, because I was just waiting and waiting. Yeah. You know,
I was getting messages on Facebook from Al, another guy who was completely not involved, but he got drug into it. So he was caught with shrapnel. And Al's a good dude, and John's a good dude.
Yeah,
I like John anyway. But Al got caught with some crossfire, and he messaged me. He goes, "Do whatever you can to get me out of this."
Oh yeah, he wrote me in the morning and said,
"Entire Blizzard bash and never bent the front of his Buick, and he was hitting like it was a I don't know what.
Freight train.
That's this Jimmy Johnson, right?
This isn't a Jimmy Johnson.
This is the Jimmy Johnson. Like the other guy calls this guy Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
That's right.
All right, I just wanted to get that clear.
NASCAR's got nothing on this guy.
No, not at all.
Dude,
well,
are we making you blush?
I sure wish I was getting the money he was getting to race. It'd help out a little bit on building these derby cars.
You ain't kidding there.
That's a good point. I mean,
Hold on, because Jimmy, we got a lot to do today, and I have to get to this before because I want it out of the way right here. Please, it's not even a big
out of
deal.
the way.
Now listen to this. Listen
Great.
to this, Chris. You've been doing a lot for us, and when we were out in Minnesota, this is a serious moment for a second.
Okay.
Everybody saw the trophies that were getting made for the hardest hitter Mad Dog Award out there, and we were in awe with them. We loved him out there. We actually started talking to the guy that built them. His name was Terry Evans. Great guy. We talked to Terry and said, we know this guy.
We actually were trying to get him on the show, but it never came together. In the arena, just with all the problems that we had, we couldn't reel him in.
Very good guy. But anyways, Terry, we talked to Terry about building the trophy, and we said we have a guy that has been doing so much for Demolition Derby. Has helped Demolition Derby so much in the last couple months, last couple years. He's been working his balls off for it, and we want to celebrate with him for all that he's done for us. And I know you don't know about this, but we asked Terry to get this shipped out on Tuesday.
Oh man,
we all worked together.
I hope it didn't go through UPS.
Listen, it did, and that's why it's here today instead of here on Saturday. And that's a fact. That's a fact. But it was last Saturday. We asked him to rush make this and rush ship it, and he did. UPS really let us down because we wanted to have it for the banquet. But I'm going to pull this out here, and we had something made for you.
Okay.
And we're just saying thank you. It's from not just us here at the podcast, but I think it's for pretty much everyone in Demolition Derby right now. But I want to give you this.
Including John Kelly.
Yeah, I don't know if John Kelly cares, but I want to give you this. I want you to look at it real quick, but I want everyone to see it on the camera. It's just something awesome that was made for
Before we get it out, Josh has mentioned in the last few months because of what you've done. But I talked to Josh about it, and I've known you pretty much forever.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not just recently. It's what you've done forever up until this point. So, without further ado.
Check out. Get me on this one.
Okay.
Check out this trophy that was made for us.
That's cool, dude.
Not only now it says Lifetime Achievement, you got your name on it. It is a microphone. He made it a microphone with some spark plugs on it.
That is awesome.
And it adjusts. You can turn it.
Dude.
It's got wires and everything.
I'm here to tell you.
Awesome.
Brett Relier, Pete Hansen, there is no one in New York State that's got a trophy like
There's
that.
not another one of those, Rob. That is too cool.
I see it real quick. I mean, seriously, this is like an artist. He took some time
No
to
kidding.
do this, and it's pretty awesome, but we want to present it.
Hey, it's
Well,
even
thank
got
you.
a Mopar flex plate on it.
Yeah, I seen that too.
Does it?
He knows.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
That's pretty
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know what to say. Thank you.
cool, though.
That is outstanding.
It's
We wanted to do it Saturday. It didn't work out.
I understand.
Josh,
That
and I
is awesome.
were fairly upset about it, but
when we saw the trophies out there, they were so great. And immediately, we all just looked at each other and we're like, we got to get one for the Chris. And we bought them right there on the track. We bought them as soon as we
bought
saw
him
them.
at the bar Saturday night.
Well, that's what we paid for them. But
Oh, yeah, paid for it at the bar Saturday night. So for us to get that together, the condition that we were in, we did all right. That was pretty impressive.
and he was upset about it because he did want it here for the
Yeah, he
banquet.
did.
And he was tracking at UPS. UPS said it was delivered at my house. We waited at my house. We called the post office,
That's why
all
Josh
that bullshit.
That's why Josh
What are the
was-
Pistons out of?
I don't know. It's Pete. Pete's another guy.
What is it?
I don't know.
I think it's a GM, isn't it?
I would say a 350 probably.
Yeah, that's just too cool.
It looks awesome, though. It's like car parts, but a microphone. I thought.
Yeah.
He said it in his head. He goes, I already can picture it in my head. And I'm like, that's it. That's what we want. That's exactly what we want.
We walked up to him and said, "Look, this is what we need." And he's like, "He's on the podcast, right?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "All right, I got it in my mind, just like that." And we're
It
like,
was.
"Okay."
And sold. Let me pull
Sold.
some money out.
Yep. So,
Wow. Well, guys, thank you. I mean, I don't know what to
welcome,
say.
buddy.
That is.
And Ben and Steve, we all had a part
yeah.
in it. So
Everybody knew about it. You guys did a good job of keeping
We
it
did.
secret for as loudmouth as you are.
we actually forgot because we were drinking when we bought it.
heavily.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Why-
I mean,
Why'd you guys ask me what that piston was at?
I don't know. You're educated.
Uh-oh.
What is that?
that was a car door opening.
Somebody left their keys in the car.
Jimmy's had enough. He's leaving us.
We got
Sorry,
a
Jimmy.
mechanic sitting here that would know more than I would.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Rick, what's this out
what
of?
is
I
that?
don't know. We'd have to get some specs on that.
You need. Okay.
You know.
Well,
Forged piston, or is it a hyper-protected piston?
You know me.
I don't know. From here, it kind of looks like just a standard run-of-the-mill cast piston. But
See,
that's all right. I'm
Mr. Educated over there.
I'm fine with it.
I think that's why Mr. Engelhardt wins most of his New York derbies because his motor runs the best out of anybody.
I don't
I'll give him
I
that.
don't
I'll
think
give him
that's
that.
anywhere near
Absolutely.
the
I'll
truth.
give you that. Rick.
Absolutely.
It don't skip a beat.
Luck has a lot to do with it, right there.
Well, I mean, one of the things we wanted to get into was exactly that, talking a little bit about motors and stuff, and Jimmy's got a couple different drivetrain combinations that he's told me about, and Rick does a lot of his own engine and transmission work, and Pete's
A lot
Pete's
of
got
it all.
Pete's got gobs of good stuff in his garage, and I just wanted, kind of to start the conversation with Jimmy first. You've got that Electra that you ran out there at Blizzard Bash, which is one of only a couple of the drivetrains that you've got. What do you have, and how did you come to the decision to run what you've got?
Oh, I'd say we got three. I got 2 setups right now. I usually keep 3. We sold one off this last year, and probably going to replace it this summer. Usually, I got some kids down south in southeast Missouri that buy a lot of my stuff. So we decided to get rid of a setup. I usually call them and give them first dibs on everything.
Can I get second dibs?
I'm out of breath, guys. I just had to run downstairs to my office, so I'm sorry about that.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Don't worry about it. That's fine. But I mean, you've got a lot of guys that are coming up and through, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But in terms of how many engines did you have to buy before you determined what drivetrain combination worked the best for you?
Probably 10.
Wow.
Before I got gear ratio, transmissions, rear ends, everything figured out the way I wanted it. And now we've been that way for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years now. And, by the time you think you got something figured out, there's something's going to change, and you're going to have to do some changing up on things. But right now we're pretty happy with what we got. And
that's all Grop engines, right?
I run all Grop engines, all Moser rear ends. Dave Bryan does some of my guy that Dave Bryan knows does a lot of my transmission work, and Jason Brodinski does my protectors. Big Rock does all my extremes and stuff like that.
And you never had one of those let you down. I know you talked a lot about how important it is to know what you're buying. For you to have to go through and buy 10 engines before you determine what it was that was working the best for you. Now you've been able to pass that information on to some of these guys that are coming up in. How important is it for those guys to have the right stuff the first time through? Just, looking at the cost to get involved with Demolition Derby, it strikes me that that's got to be hugely important for those guys.
That's a great question.
Since I started Demolition Derby, I've probably had 6 different engine builders. Last 7-8 years, I've been with Scott Grop, and I've stuck with Scott. Motor combos here in the last 10 engines, just kind of, we do a lot of R&D stuff for Scott. Scott builds a new piece. He wants to go out and try it out. There's just like few guys that he lets go out and does that. So we trust Scott. We buy that product from him. We go out and do that, and we go back and we'll return that in. He does R&D on it, see how that's holding up to however the driver drives. Different drivers drive different ways.
Different drivers driving different ways. It's a good transition point for the next question that I had for you. That was interesting to learn that just like circle track guys, which count laps on their engines, Jimmy has an hour limit on his engines. He has a whole maintenance program that after he hits X number of hours, this engine goes back and gets freshened. And I've just never come back to.
If I get a year out of that show, a year of shows out of that motor, it usually goes back to Scott, and I usually let him go through it, and he checks everything out. But it helps Scott out and helps me out because I got a fresh piece to start off the new year with, and go from there.
That's so cool.
So, go ahead.
Rick Engelhardt's got kind of the same sort of thing.
I was just gonna. That's where we were heading right there.
His, if it, he takes it out for a show and runs it wide open.
No, he melts it. He actually melts them down.
Yeah, from the time they say go
back to
until the time they hand him the checkered flag, he runs it wide open through all of that. And if it happens to run for the next show, then he's happy. And if not, he just takes it out and drops it in a scrap pile and puts another one in. But we just discussed this at the party.
Hold on. Can I bring something up here? Because actually, I've talked to Jimmy and Rick about something that I want to hear what they both say about it. Rick is a Chrysler guy, and Rick's been building trannies for me. Rick's built trannies for everybody. Yep. Rick, for anybody that's never met Rick, he's one of the hardest drivers. When you say to yourself you want someone that does not take their foot off the gas and shifts, he is the true man. I mean, I've never seen him not take his foot off the gas.
He ruined Brett's wagon.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Come on, it was already bent when I got it.
Yeah, right.
Not like that, it wasn't.
But the thing about Rick is he is so hard on a Mopar tranny, and they take it. Now, talking to Jimmy, the other day I talked to Jimmy, and I said, he goes, what kind of trannies you run? I said, run 727s. And what did you say to me, Jimmy? I stopped running them in 1983. That's what he said to me. So I'm interested in hearing what Jimmy has to say about that and Rick, because for Rick, they really have held up when he beat on him.
Right.
But also Jimmy's saying, man, I don't trust him.
How long did it take him to beat that car to where it wasn't running anymore?
It was about 10 minutes.
That's a valid question.
That's probably why the 904 and 727 held up that long.
You know, and that may be a point, but I got 727s.
Rick, pull that microphone in so we can hear you. There you go.
That may be a good point, but I got 727s that I got, 10, 15, 20 runs out of.
I tell you what, you are the man then, because I couldn't get 15 minutes out of one to save my life back in the day. And
really does that.
I was giving Josh just a hard time about it. Told him he had to get that converter and convert that Mopar over to a 400 turbo and use it ultra bell, and he was just that sick. He was having puppies over it. Boy, you just could tell in the background he didn't like hearing all about that, nothing about that Chevy transmission behind that Mopar. He didn't want no part of it.
And I hear a lot of guys say the same thing, and I'm at a point in my building career that I'd almost like to try to build a TH400 and see what I can do with that and see if they are going to hold up better than a 727. For me, the first night I think I met Chris Marquardt, he told me flat out, he says, I've never seen somebody shift a transmission as hard as you and have it not quit. It took me a lot of years of building trannies and having things break and figuring out what to change.
Maybe
and
you
what
know
to do
about
different.
this more than I do, but I always busted the servo pistons in them.
Well, you buy one. They make this one. It's a super servo, and it's complete steel. I actually had one in my vehicle. I should have brought it up today. It's actually for Josh. Instead of being about a quarter-inch thick piece of aluminum, it's now a true solid seal. It's made out of steel. It's a true seal, 100% machined cast or solid steel piece. It's about 1.5 inches thick, and you're not going to break that. And it applies the rear band, with so much more force, so much more holding power. I'm not going to tell you that I haven't went through learning curves. A couple years ago, I was running some Kevlar bands. Kevlar is supposed to be the toughest material known to man, and I'd take the rear bands. I'd have no material on them in about 3 minutes of derby, and I'd be sitting there with no reverse, and it sucked. But I learned some other tricks, and you talk to some old
like
school
what?
tranny builders. Just a lot of I'll be honest with you, a lot of it is the amount of time you spend on your build. What you want to do. For fluid holding capacities on the clutch materials. Fluid is a transmission's friend. You can cross hatch just like you cross hatch your cylinders for your rings to seal. You can cross hatch all your steels and stuff and all your band surfaces and keep that fluid in there, and that clutch material really grabs on a lot better.
What you just said, Rick, was exactly why I thought they were too early with the checkered flag at Waterloo this year. Because what'd I say?
Nothing.
There was a
Waterloo?
One of the guys.
No one was there, so we don't know what you're talking about.
Can the record show again that I didn't mention that place?
Jake had a 727 in his, and Donnie had a 350, I think, in his. He might have had a 400, but the volume of fluid and stuff and all the issues that could go wrong, you don't know what that Mopar Tran was going to do. And at very least, could have twisted out, and the end of that feature could have been completely different, but it was a quick checker.
Drink some more apple pie.
No, sir.
But, Jimmy, this is Pete Hansen. I've like he said, Rick Engelhardt here. I've derbied all over, just like you have, and I ain't never seen these guys in this few tracks in this New York State area. They do not, like, we lift off the gas before we shift. There is no such thing. It is wide open. It is insane. It's nothing I've ever seen in my life. The first time I went there, I said, something's not right. They'll take a $1,500 shocker. That's what they pay for them up here. Or Imperial, 64 boxcar Imperial, and junk that car. When I mean junk, there's nothing left of it, belly laying on the bottom in less than 10 minutes. It's insane. And the transmissions that Rick built.
Chris, I think.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Good with trannies, not so good with Mike's.
Just leave that alone now.
It's amazing, you know. And I ran 727 that Rick built me. And last year was the first year me back over to GM. And don't get me wrong, Brent Johnson did me good. I mean, he built me a hell of a motor at Redline.
I was sad to hear Pete Hansen.
Mopar business his way and let him take care of some of these Mopar guys that can't keep transmissions in the car.
Ship them across the country. This is the best Mopar tranny guy around.
Definitely.
Well, I don't know about that, but I've had some good luck.
But it was interesting because Jimmy was really adamant about it, and it's like, but not just Jimmy. I've talked when you get past southern Pennsylvania, everyone says Mopar is junk, just junk, and I get that. It just doesn't last for them. But then it's like, but I swear I know this guy that he can make them last, you know. So it's just kind of cool that you guys are both here together.
The first time that I ever saw Rick run was at Brookfield Wheel Days in 2011, and he had a box car that he turned inside out in the course of an evening, and that was when he hit.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
I don't remember. I can't remember the guy's name. He had a Malibu that was
Jeremy Pettit.
Had a Malibu against the wall, like right in front of me. So I was taping from right here, and the cars were where the camera was. They were right there. And Rick backed up like the sixth time, way out through the smoke, and disappeared. And I'm like, okay, it's over with. And they're waving the checkered flag and everything. And all of a sudden, just screaming, comes flying in and hits him again. And the car just about comes over the wall. And I didn't do greatest hits then the way that I did now. The following year, I saw Rick again at Wheel Days, and that was when he won the Hit of the Year award, the way that we do greatest hits. Now, it was just some of the most amazing driving that I've ever seen, because it's no joke. He'll be going 30 miles an hour forward, and the wheels are turning backwards, but he's still flying forward.
He's a driver, man. He's a driver. It's so fun to watch.
I mean, I was sure that Imperial was coming over the wall. I got pictures where the drive shaft from the Malibu was actually sticking out of the Jersey barrier like this.
I think they used a chain and a four-wheel drive truck to pull it out of the ground, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Rick
is
just
awesome to watch, for sure.
Yes, without a doubt.
He is great to watch.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
He's one of those guys that Derby drivers like to watch. You aren't real excited about being in the heat with him because, you know, Rick's a Derby guy, and sooner or later, you know, you're probably gonna,
you stay close.
You're gonna
stay really
you don't let
close.
him get run. I think the only time I've ever been on the track with Rick is at the State Fair, and up there's just so many cars. But
it's a joke up there.
Yeah, so. I mean, back in the day when we used to run it though, and there were 70 or 80 good cars up there. I took
a '99 Monte Carlo this last year, so I mean that kind of tells you what it's
Boo.
like. Yeah. But like Jimmy, if I can ask you, I mean, I made a trip out to Metal Mayhem a couple years ago, and I did watch guys lose transmissions, and I know that they weren't running Chrysler drivetrains, and I did watch guys.
They lose 400s all the time too.
You know, and they lost 3 speeds.
Building them, or where they got them from, or things like that.
Right. You know, I saw guys losing 3 speeds or whatever. You know, smoking some clutches and everything. I mean, the transmission is probably about the weakest link in one of these cars when we're putting it together to just go out there and pound the living daylights out of it.
And to like Josh's defense, I'm the same way you guys are. You find a good builder, you keep them. You don't lose them. You know, I can understand if he's got a good builder and he's building these 727s and 904s and they're holding up, more power to him. But we just don't got anybody around here who can build them like that.
Let's not say 904 because that's really not my favorite transmission.
Rick refuses to build me 904s. I have to beg and beg. I had to beg for 3 hours.
You know, I have some guys that want me to build 904s, and I tell them flat out, you know, you're going to get what you get. You know, and that's it. You know, the 727s, on the other hand, I'll stand behind them for a little while, and, you know, if I watch some guy run them and I don't think that he ran it hard enough and he has a problem, I'll make good on that.
Right.
You know, that brings us to another point that Jimmy was alluding to that I want to get some thoughts from Rick on is Jimmy's got a bunch of guys that are new to the sport that are just coming in, and he's sort of taking them under his wing, so to say, try to teach them some of the tricks and help get them into good equipment the first time through to save them some money, because Derby's not a cheap hobby.
Right.
No.
See, I kind of differ on that a little bit. I think that, you know, guys should have to do a little bit of research and development on their own. When I came up through the ranks, there was a lot of good runners, and you couldn't get a bit of information out of them. I've been running for 22, 23 years, and I got my ass spanked when I first went on the track, you know, repeatedly. And I went home and I said, if I'm going to do this, I need to decide what I got to do different. You know, there was no internet, there was no Grop motors, no Redline motors, no Baldwin engines. You know, that stuff was not available. You know, and it took me a lot of years to come up through to where I can consider myself competitive on a local level. You know, so maybe some guys will think I'm kind of a dink for saying that, but I think that there should be a learning curve. I don't think that a 16-year-old boy should be able to hop in, maybe if his dad's done it all his life and whatnot, but I don't think that 16-year-old kid should, have every opportunity that somebody like Pete Hansen or Jimmy Johnson or anybody else is out there has.
Valid point.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I talked to guys when we were on our trip to Minnesota, and I talked to guys at the party. I think it's good to help the younger kids, to a certain point. But I also think that there's just stuff that they have to learn on their own. And what it all comes down to is you can have the best of everything. But if you go out and park sideways in the middle of the track, it doesn't matter what you have because it's going to get broke off.
But let me jump in for Jimmy here because Jimmy's actually talked to me about this, and it really made a lot of sense to me. Forget about teaching the small tricks and stuff. More what Jimmy is saying is, especially in sport now, everything's about add-ons and bolt-ons, and you can go out there's 1,000 vendors out there. More what Jimmy is saying is maybe we should teach the younger guys where not to waste their time and their money. Not teach them every trick, but Jimmy brings up a good point. If you're going to go out and buy a distributor protector, you might as well buy the best one off the bat. If you're going to buy a slider, buy the best one off the bat. Now, I understand not everybody can do that, but if that's where you want to go with, if you want to be one of the best, don't waste your time buying stuff that's subpar because you're going to end up fighting yourself, and it's tough to get new guys as it is. So if we can give them, at least in the game, because let's not forget, I don't care if you have $100,000 in a car, if it's your first Derby, you are going to make a shitload of mental mistakes. Right. It just is going to happen.
And you need to keep those kids interested, and I do understand that. And maybe that's steering them in the right direction with some parts or something is a valid point, but I think anybody in this room can say that the way that they learned was making those wrong mistakes.
That's true too.
Yep,
that's true too.
And anybody has to agree.
Rick, Jimmy Johnson. What I'm thinking about here is the guys that go out and is willing to put out the money. Well, some of these guys, these young guys, no, because they're not going to put in the time. They're not going to put in the money. They're going to run one car and they're done. No, do I think that they deserve to have a little help? Somebody, on their side? No, not at all. But the guy that has went, like, let's say, some compact drivers, younger guys that have ran compacts, and they're ready to switch over and run to a big car, and they need some help picking parts up. I just don't see any sense of these young guys going out and buying. They say, oh, man, this part's $300 cheaper. I want to go buy this part. And they go buy this part, and it breaks. So they
for sure. And I understand that.
And they buy this part, and it's junk, and they have to go buy it again. What I'm trying to say to these young guys is, listen, is it worth buying this cheap part and going and running now, or is it worth putting that money back in your wallet, going another couple months, buying the right part the first time, put it on,
right?
And,
that makes sense.
And I do agree with you on that. And I have
absolutely.
told people they've talked to me about drive shafts or whatever, and they ask me what I run. And I'm 100% honest with you, and I've had guys come up to me and say, well, this is so much cheaper. I said, well, if you got to buy two of them, is it still cheaper?
Yes.
Is it cheaper after you've bought your second one?
That's a great point.
And it is, like you said, it's the younger guys that have that you can tell have the heart and drive that are going to keep here in this sport and keep this sport moving in the direction that it's going.
And that's kind of where you got to pick and choose, But I think there's a lot of guys like that out there that's willing to put in the work, willing to put in the money, that just going to go out there and buy the wrong parts. They're going to go out there and build it. Am I going to give these guys all my build secrets? No. As they progress, am I going to share stuff with them? Sure, I am. But I'm not going to do it right off the bat. They're going to have to, they earn that respect from me, and these boys have. I've been helping them for about 2 years, but I haven't showed them everything. But I've showed them a lot, and but on the other hand is too, I'm getting old enough that am I going to be here in 15 years? I don't know if my old body will let me do it, but if I can, that's great.
May I ask how old you are?
These guys, it'd be nice to just be able to leave a little bit behind and say, you know what, I showed them boys what to do that, and feel good about it at the end of my career. So that's kind of why I just get to that point where I want to help some people out.
Right, absolutely. May I ask how old you are, how long you've been derbying?
43, and I've been derbying since I was 18.
There you go. And you said the key word, respect. I run into it, here on tracks. There's some guys that they've run 2 derbies, and and they're going to come out and run all the veterans over. They're going to change. They're going to change everything that's been happening on the Derby track for the last 5 years in one night. And they make no bones about it. They're going to junk me. They're going to junk Pete Hansen. They're going to junk Josh Decker. They're going to junk everybody out
probably.
there. And that's the ones that you're not going to steer into buying the right stuff and whatnot. You're just going to tell them flat out, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of them guys out there that are getting in the sport. And I've seen a lot of guys go out and spend a lot of money, build a car, and the big cars. Little cars, them guys are running them. But you get them into the big cars, they go out and they spend a lot of money to transfer over, and they go out and get their asses just demolished. And not only do they just get demolished on the track, they get demolished where their motors are broke, their trans are broke, and they're like, screw this, and I'll never be back again. And I don't want them to feel that way. You buy the right parts. There's reputable builders building training braces, building protectors out there, building full engine cradles, rear ends that stand behind their products, and they've been R&D'd, and I'm one of the ones that I push. Some of them other guys that sell some of the more chintzier shit.
Absolutely.
Got some good stuff. It's probably got its place. It's just not in this sport.
And we have that same thing up here. Just talking about the car alone. The guys that'll go out and they'll buy an Imperial, and because we're still allowed to run them a few shows, and all they say is, I got an Imperial, I got an Imperial, I got an Imperial, and they show up and it's junk,
That happens a lot around here, it is Imperial country around here, but I'd say half the time, half of them are junk. Half of them are not intimidating.
I hear all these guys, over years and years and years, posting on the internet, whatever, got 8, 9, 10, 15 runs out of this Imperial. I'd like to learn their secrets, because I tell you right now, I can't get much more than about 3 heats out of them. You get their junk.
Yeah.
Rick Engelhardt, you're never, ever going to get more than maybe a run and a half out of one of your cars the way you drive it.
No. Oh, that's what it's there for.
If somebody moves, you still hit the barrier just as hard as you would have gone to hit him.
Well, sometimes that happens.
I have never in my life, there's a group of you guys up here in New York that run so hard that it's just like
impressive.
It is.
See, maybe I should need to spend a little bit more money on brakes and brake pads.
I don't even understand how you're sitting there talking like intelligent. I wouldn't think there'd be anything left. Yes, it's just. Awesome. Oh.
And for anybody that's ever heard of Rick or that wants to look more on the United States page, there's the New York drivers. I've posted a bunch of pics of Rick. All them yellow cars, all the 33Rs, there's like 25 of them. That's all him. And you're going to look at all of them and be like, what the heck happened to them cars?
Like the Grand Fury ran last year that just
some
like
great
it ran
cars.
Through a
yeah,
war.
or Facebook. He's got some great pictures throughout the summer to look at.
Yes, he does.
There's stuff on all the videos.
Can I bring up another question though that I asked Pete right before the show started, but
let's hang on to that for a second. We got a couple things we got to talk about, especially on the topic of the Imperials. Total Destruction Demo Productions is now allowing Imperials to run. They're going to be at Morris. They're also going to be at the Ontario County Fairgrounds. Jump online, check those guys out. Great set of rules. They're also allowing 03s. We've had Ben Haas, the lead inspector, on the show a bunch of times. Get out there and support those guys. You can see them Ontario County Fairgrounds at the end of July. That's Canandaigua Motorsports Park. They're going to be at Morris. They're going to be logging a lot of miles that same week because the same week of Morris, the Otsego County Fair is also the Franklin County Fair up in
Chris,
Malone, New York. And yeah,
can I make one comment on that? The Imperials being allowed back at Morris and stuff. Over the last couple of years, I've watched them give to the rules for the Fords. And all these Ford guys are always asking for more and more and more. And I do know a few Ford guys that as soon as they said Imperials are allowed back there, they don't want to run there anymore. Oh, now they're giving to the Mopar guys. Come on. When's fair? What's fair?
Well, ask Pete. Pete will say right now he's not scared to run against them. He'll bring up an 03 or whatever.
Well, Pete Hansen's not scared to run against a tank. So
I've been picking on Ben Haas like religiously.
It's going to get worse, guys. It's going to get worse with Pete now. He's there with Songanuski and all them guys now.
Yeah.
You think it's bad, you wait till next year.
Yeah.
Come back. This cat's going to have some wild shit going on.
Pete Hansen's going to take on the U.S. military next year.
Exactly.
We're going to send him to Iraq.
Yeah. So, we got this little local show. I've never ran the show. I've been there and watched it. Like Rick Engelhardt. I think you run it Morris, haven't you?
Yes, I've ran Morris.
Yeah, Josh Decker. And
a couple rollovers.
I want to, and then they're allowing Imperials. I've been busting. They won't allow us trans braces, They'll allow you to put a cradle in an 03 and newer. and they're having strictly an Imperial heat, and they're going to take whatever 2 or 3 out of that heat, and they can go on to the final. And I've been busting the inspector's butt and saying, listen, I want to bring an 03 and newer and run strictly in the Imperial heat.
Pete. That's awesome.
And I said, just give me that trans protector. And he says, no. He says, them things are bulldozers. No. So to Ford guys, not going to run against Imperials, you're crazy. I'd run against them any day of the week.
But Pete, you go on a tricycle against an Imperial.
I'm glad you said that, though, Pete. No, I'm glad Pete said that, because for the people in the New York area, this is actually a big deal, because Ben has been able to. Chris, I'll let you go.
We got ads to do.
But I want to talk about this topic.
We got to pay bills.
Go ahead.
We got to pay bills.
This is a great topic.
I'm sorry I butted in there.
No, it's a great topic. Go ahead.
We can. We got to finish Total Destruction. They're online. Check those guys out. Another place where you can see all those Fords run is Bash for Cash. We're going to be out there with DerbyTees.tv. We're going to be there doing the live commentary. It's going to be all those sorts of available information on pay-per-view. It's a huge 2-day show in Ohio. Definitely one of the premier shows.
They do a
it's
great
in Memorial
job.
Day. Awesome show. Talked with Hank Pensick. He's going to have a car out there, and I think we're going to put one of the in-cars on it just for fun to see if he can break that off, and that'll be a good time. Met a bunch of people that are talking about going out for Bash for Cash, so we're going to be busy out there. Sean's going to go. I think Alan McNeil's going to go. He picked up a roof sign at the banquet. So Bash for Cash, Master Productions, they do a whole bunch of shows throughout Ohio, but really their flagship event is the one in Washington Courthouse. We'll be out there for a couple days. We're going to be camping out with some buddies out there, so make sure you stop by, say hi. You can also see the forthcoming ad for both Total Destruction and Smash It's Bash for Cash in the upcoming edition next month, Derby Inc. magazine. And the final order of business, and then I'll let you guys go back to talking about all your Fords and arguing about which car is better. We got to hang this stuff out here for our buddies down in Brookville, Pennsylvania.
Just right. Set aside July 19th for the reinvented Keystone Nationals. Again this summer, Bo Lockwood will host the Keystone Nationals at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds in Brookville, Pennsylvania. A revamped rulebook will help welcome an all-star field as the limited well division takes center stage in a feature paying $5,000 to win. Pre-entries for the stock division are already full. For more details, join the Keystone Nationals community online at www.facebook.com/Keystone Nationals. Once again, the Keystone Nationals, July 19th, 2014 at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, Brookville, Pennsylvania.
There we go, and that was the show that gotcha.
That was tea, iced tea.
But Keystone Nationals, that was where Pete Hansen won the first of his Pennsylvania sweep, won Brookville's well division. You can see the black and green number 14 in one of those last highlights, and went on to win the Hartford Fair this year, which earned him full-size Driver of the Year, Compact Driver of the Year awards. What is going on? Jimmy, buddy, what are you doing over there?
What are you doing, Jimmy?
I'm just sitting here,
Okay.
peacefully, going through business receipts, listening to all you guys talk, see?
All right. Well, I mean,
Are you done with your commercial? I want to jump right back
go ahead.
in. I got
Go.
topics here.
Go.
I got two topics I want to talk about.
We got 20 minutes. Go
We
ahead.
got to get back to Imperials 03 because that's a huge topic I want to talk about.
All right, go ahead.
But I asked Pete before this show started. I want to hear what Jimmy says, and I want to hear Pete to say what he said when we were before the show. There's a lot of drivers listening right now that cannot afford all to spend that money, okay? I want to hear, what would you guys do as top drivers? What would you do if you didn't have the money? Would you not derby? Would you build stuff yourself? Would you buy the cheaper stuff? If you could kind of explain that because again, not all of us have unlimited wallets or even a little bit of wallets where we can buy half of this stuff. What should those guys be doing? Seriously.
Bone stock. The money that's going out in bone stock right now, if I was a new driver, that's where I'd be.
See, the problem is up here we don't really have, we don't have the wide array of classes like what you guys have down there.
But you got a bone stock option July 8th in Penn Yan.
Well, we have a bone stock and we have some limited builds, and then we have, a couple places like, Hartford that allow some stuff. But, that is a good question. I mean, I don't have an unlimited wallet. I would pick to build a lot of my own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough, the last couple of years I've had a little bit of money, and I got lazy. I mean, prior to that, you can ask anybody, I built everything. I built my own rear ends. I built my own motors. Everything I built, was all home built, and I won a lot of shows with that. You guys can just, it's only now in the last year and a half that I spent over $50,000, to go west.
See, we can't all do that.
No, but I was quitting. I was giving up. You can ask my wife; she'll tell you. I was quitting the game. I was done.
I kind of remember that.
I wasn't having really fun around here because there was too much of the crap going on. Nobody can get along. Everybody always cheating because he's winning. I wasn't cheating,
and that's the problem.
It was just I put that nut that everybody else forgot to tighten, I tightened it.
Right.
And that's all it was.
I hear the cheating thing a lot. My hometown, we got about 6,000 people in the grandstands, and the grandstands are right tight to the track. And, you can hear them cheering when you're hitting, and as soon as you get called the winner, they're booing,
That's what Rick said to me the other night.
Yeah.
That's Josh and I were talking, and I didn't remember where it was, here or somewhere. And I had never known that Rick got booed because
it's
unbelievable.
bad.
It's the worst.
The thing is every time I've seen people booed,
He got booed when he flipped that car at wheel days because they thought that he did it on purpose. They thought he did it on purpose.
But the thing is I've never seen somebody booed that was hitting.
Right.
It's always they always boo the guy that wins and doesn't hit anybody, and everybody knows that isn't Rick Engelhardt.
No.
Right.
I mean, for him to drive as hard as he does and put on the show for the fans and then get booed. I mean, I don't want to piss off 6,000 people, but they ain't got a clue what Derby's about.
But it is what it is. Let's get back to what Pete was talking about like the rear ends and stuff. I have a motor set up. I had to build it all. I didn't want to go with a brass bushing. I myself, from looking at it as an engineering standpoint, I don't think the brass bushing is the way to go. I bought the bigger axle tube ends. I cut it down in my shop, welded them on myself. Did all that because I have to. I can't just send off to some guy and say, send me a rear end with, this gear, this spline axle with bearings on the end. I have to do it myself.
Yeah, my Mayhem car this year, that was all my own build rear. I built that in-house. That's a Mosier axles, 35 spline, But that's why I broke. I learned my lesson. I was running a stock 9-inch housing. I didn't have a nodular housing, John Bell there whacked me in the tire right there towards the end, and I was in the throttle, and it blew the spool and everything right out the backside. So
right.
Now I got
seen a lot of the shows.
Now I got a $1,600 center section.
Right.
Seen a lot of the shows I run. We're not allowed to run the rear end bracing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I choose to run my rear even in the shows that you allow bracing, but I can't. You brought up a good point to me the other night. Making something that possibly bolts on or something, and I may look into that. Because I don't want to break my rear end, because if I break that, that's money out of my pocket, and I can't.
Time. You
Jimmy,
another one.
Jimmy, how important is it to have that aftermarket stuff? The caliber shows that you run, it almost seems that you don't have any choice but to have that high dollar bolt-on stuff if you want to compete.
Well, I tell you a little story. That's not always true. And only reason I'm going to put this out there is because I know now he's learned his lesson and he's not going to do it anymore. Up until the end of Blizzard Bash this year, 2013, my teammate built everything that was in his car. And if you look down inside his car, you would honestly, the first time I looked in Chad Markley's car, I looked down inside of it and I said, well, I wouldn't even unload that piece of shit off the trailer.
That's what Pete Hansen says to me.
And to me.
And I'm telling right now, 31 spline axles, the whole 9 yards. You wouldn't believe it. There's no way I could explain it if I even told you. Shifters that looked like they were going to fall off. But the guy can wheel. He can wheel that car like nobody's business. This year, after hanging out with me a little bit, and for the last few years, Chad and I have been running together, and Chad's bumped her up to a hard build. And but I've seen guys just do stuff, man, that can drive those cars, and just phenomenal what they can do with the shit that they're doing it with. Mm-hmm. But as things are progressing, even with his, he's been derbying just as long as I have, if not longer. Even with his being able to drive the way he does, it's just gotten to a place where you have to bump it up, and you're going to have to go to that next level. But I also feel with sponsorships and things like that and getting the notoriety and derbying, if we don't use this technology that's been given to us by Brian Norette, by Big Rock, by you just name your builder or your vendor. We got to put that out there in order, because people want to see flash. They want to see that. Man, look at that. That's badass. You pop the hood on a 74 Chev, and it's got all the stock shit up underneath of it. Who cares?
Right. Right. That's
But
very true.
If they want, they want that flash. They like it when the guy's paint underneath the hood. You got the $4,000 Pete Hansen paint job on their car. That's what they're after, man. That's what the guys want.
I did that car in 45 minutes.
No bullshit, Pete.
See,
I know you did, Pete. I like that. Okay.
It's just something a little different,
I thought it was a badass paint job.
You know what looks a lot better though? Yellow and blue.
I tell you what.
This year we're going blue.
No, Team Kansas
Stuff
is yellow
like
and blue.
that
Pete,
right
catch up.
there, that's what's going to get us sponsorship money. That's what's going to make Derby go bigger and better, and that's what we have to do. We have to bring this sport. We've been in the county fair, area too long. There needs to be more money paid out to these drivers and builders, and a lot of these. And I'm not saying anything bad about any promoters out there that's listening, but these promoters that are out there trying to, and I don't, there's a lot of guys that still like to do that, and they should have them, but they're trying to do away with the world class and go more back to bone stock, and you're taking the sport in the wrong direction, in my opinion.
There's definitely room for two classes.
I mean, we've talked a gazillion times on the show about the split. I mean, everybody's trending towards more extreme or more stock, and there's guys out there. There's certainly a place for that stock style build. I mean, look how great the shows at Hartford have been, and look at where the cars around here are trending more towards that stock way, just because people aren't investing the money because they don't have any place to run those extreme rules.
But the difference between us and Jimmy is there's a huge gap between their build style and stock. Ours are pretty damn close together, actually.
Yeah, right.
But that's
Not really.
No.
No. See, and that's the thing. Like, I went to Hartford this year. And everybody just looked at my car and they're like, "Oh my God, look at that thing!"
I said that.
Yeah,
I did that.
we're not going to be able to compete with this car.
I said that too.
And they weren't.
And I wasn't.
But what they don't understand, and I mean, Jimmy can verify this, because I mean, I know he's a quality and a great builder, everything.
Yeah.
That is no different than the next guy's car. It just might have an extra 15 or 18 hours worth of finesse in that car, not an extra, $5,000 part.
That's a good point.
Or anything.
Right.
I have two things to say about your Hartford car. One, if Josh was in the feature, would you have driven the car harder? And two, if everybody would have gone after you, would the outcome have been different?
Yes. And yes.
Oh,
DeBevick.
listen.
Yes.
I'm not.
Maybe his bumper would have been that.
If my best friend Josh DeBevick was in that feature,
You guys
that
would have been
feature-
sending stuff.
that feature would have been over a lot sooner.
And I would have loved that because it wouldn't have taken so long to edit.
Sold bowl DVDs.
Yeah, but I had no choice but to lay back because I had no friends. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong, we are all friends. But on the track, I had no friends at that point. I had my cousin Ryan Clemo. Don't get me wrong. I mean, great kid, everything else. But, he was flying and running back. But his car, he had some issues last year, and he didn't have a quality built car because he was, whatever, home issues, whatever. But, I mean, great kid. Awesome builder. And there's another aspect of it. He's building. I mean, he took second to Brett, the year before with all bone stock stuff.
Right.
Stock everything. No Mosers because he can't afford it. He's got 2 children, and it's just how it is. But now everybody looked at that car of mine last year, and it was a baseline Riviera with a lot of dimpling and a little twists and a little turns. I mean, it was tilted and stuff. I mean, I was running stock Vic spindles on the front of it. Anybody can get their hands on them. Yes, I did have my Redline motor, my rear end, but my rear end was home built and a Narrat drive shaft and, Brodzinski protector and all this stuff. But other than that, that same body, anybody could have brought there and put it together the same way, with just ambition.
But with
I call it.
with the intimidation factor of the car that you brought there, people stayed away from you in the feature. Do you believe that or no?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Well, hands
So
down.
if they went after you, would the outcome have been different, or was the car hard enough to still bring home the win?
Yes.
I think the only way that would have changed that. Now, I've been in a lot of predicaments in my career.
Because you had no friends
around home. And I went to a local show up around the Owego area, and there was like 16 of them and one of me.
Right.
And it was all of them except one guy, and that's Brett Rallier. Thanks, buddy. That did not come after me, and they were teeing off on me all night long.
I got a couple good shots on you.
You ended up on the wall.
That is true.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but anyways, when that was all over, I took third against 16 of some of the best New York drivers at that time.
Was that Imperial subframe wagon?
No. It was a black convertible.
It was a black convertible that we
67 or
built in 3 days. Honest to God, 3 days, and we took it up there. And I mean, they teed off. My Imperial sub was bent in 14 places.
Nice.
14 places, and they could not believe why it wouldn't stop running. It's because it's a Rick Engelhardt setup for a motor. Don't quit.
And to go back on something that Jimmy said, I think he used the word bling. That's one thing that separates, me from some other people. I don't take the time to really dress things up.
Nope.
I go, most of the derbies I go to, the car's either shot yellow with some black lettering on it, or it's whatever color it was when it was last on the road. I don't dress the things up to make them all look pretty. I've had some friends of mine come over and, look at some stuff and help me build cars, and they're like, dude, you're doing this? You're doing this? I'm like, yeah, it works for me, and I can count on my reliability of my drivetrain for our local shows. I'm not saying that it's anything caliber of what you guys are running down there, but
think of this, Rick. If Jimmy's got a great point on there. If there wasn't the next best thing where everyone's like, oh, that's so cool, because now everyone looked at Pete's car. Let's take Pete's car example. It's like, man, now everyone wants to build an equivalent to Pete's car, and you have to keep growing, or else then we'd all get bored.
Right, for sure.
Because think about how many times there goes the fairs that it feels like we're on a lull, and you need that next motivation to build the next best thing. We need that. We need the technology.
Jimmy, how much time do you have invested in the Buicks that you build for a team show like Blizzard Bash?
Not too much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I mean, we've hit on this topic a number of different times about it.
If I sit in the shop and I got a thinking stool, I like to call it my thinking stool. It rolls around. I sit there and I think, and I look at the car from front to back. If I sit there and I sit on that thinking stool too long, it's really easy to get a couple 100 hours into a car.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what, though? That's, we've kind of been hearing here, about Pete and about Jimmy and the stuff that they're doing on their builds now. And I can't attest to Jimmy because I haven't had a chance to meet him yet and talk in person. But I know last year we were at Whitney Point, and it was Pete Hansen and another one of his buddies. It wasn't Josh. But then Jesse Howe was standing there, and Gary Brown, and I think Brett was there. And Pete was talking about when he started. And I actually thought Pete was older and had run more years because I've always heard so much about Pete Hansen. But we're pretty close in age. And he goes, I can remember when I started, I remember running around my house looking for loose change to pay entry to get into derbies. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt, and I assume Jimmy's probably the same way, that, he scrimped.
There isn't a doubt. I didn't even, when you built a car, there was none of this.
Yeah.
You didn't even strip a car out. When you strip the car out, you cut the carpet out around the seat.
Yeah, I remember those days.
You cut the carpet out around the seat. Hell, half the times you're using seat belts to hold other stuff into your car.
I mean, that's the thing is, guys like, Pete that have, Pete's paid the price. I mean, he's scrimped and saved and busted his ass, and, Pete's in a pretty hard business. I mean, it's got its ups and downs, and now at the moment, Pete's able to buy the best. And, from the looks of Jimmy's results, obviously Jimmy has great stuff too. But, these guys have
Jimmy
paid
does
the price.
okay.
Yeah, Jimmy has okay. Hey, not to change the subject, but if you want to help guys out, I've been in 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And I need some help.
Mute that.
Mute
him right now. Thank you.
If
Something's happening to your microphone.
If you want to send that build sheet for that Buick you had at Blizzard Bash, I get you the address.
Time. Yeah.
But anyways, in all seriousness, though, for guys, I mean, you look at the guys; they're at the top of the game right now. I mean, it's guys that have paid the price and have scrimped and busted their asses. I mean, and it's great that they give back. But I mean, they're, out of the top guys. And I mean, Jimmy would know more than me, but I mean, it's guys that have paid the price and have not,
But that's one of the really cool things about Jimmy is I've only talked to him a couple of times, but he's been so honest and open, and he's been trying to help. And I really like that because like you guys said, there wasn't that stuff when you're younger, but it is kind of nice to have some guys kind of helping you through. He's not telling me everything to do, but he's kind of saying like, don't waste your time here and don't waste your time here.
Right.
And I like that little bit of help.
You had that in your Derby career. You've had guys that have certainly helped give you information. There
was a time when, and people say I still suck, but there was a time when I sucked. But then a guy came and helped me and actually said, Josh, everything you're doing is stupid. Just start from scratch. And he taught me he caught me up to everybody. And I can never thank that guy enough do we not? Robbie Brown.
Okay, there we go.
No, I love Robbie Brown. He changed my life and to where he gave me respect in the Derby world. No, in my whole life, because he taught me a lot of things in the Derby world you take into your life. And I think we all need that. So anybody that's older in the sport, you know, if you're getting older in the age, maybe it is time to step back and say, like, maybe it's time for me not to be a dick anymore and say I don't want to teach the rules. Instead, say, like, no, maybe it's time to hand down because somebody did that for me and it changed my life. So maybe, you know, and Jimmy's kind of does that for his area, is kind of helping the guys that need to help, but the guys that want it. Not the guy, like he said, not the guys that only want to run.
Well, I don't help the guys that got to run against. Don't get me wrong. I
didn't know that. I didn't know
that. I got enough hard builders around here that I don't have to deal with nobody else, Josh.
See, that's
me sound better than I really am. Come on now.
See, that's where I'm in a predicament. There's nights I go on a track and I got 6, 7, 8 transmissions I built that I got to go out there and beat.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
And that's a point that it's kind of like, what do you do?
But Rick, once you get them tipped up on the roof, then you're
around our area. We've got when it hits the track, it's on like Donkey Kong, and we've got tremendous builders in our area. I mean,
absolutely.
Even from the bottom all the way up, even the bottom guys. I mean, they're tough builders. Well, we don't have no slouches very often on our tracks.
See, and that's a comment that I made to these guys just before we got in here was, my hometown track is a little over 300 feet long, and they really emphasize on the hard hitting by giving out, $175 to the hardest hitter of the heat, every heat, plus a good trophy and a trip to the feature. It's not necessarily that hard-built car that you got to watch out for. You got to worry about that 17, 18-year-old kid that has no fear, and he's going to back it to the blocks, and he's going to send it, and he's going to ruin somebody's night.
Ladle heads.
Where he ends up landing on is going to be a bad day.
Yeah, he's going to ruin somebody's night, and that's what I aim to do a lot. Is when
ruin somebody's night.
When people show up with a lot of the bling and whatnot, I like to. There's certain guys that when they show up with all this bling and
why are you looking at Pete?
Everything, I just like to try to ruin their night. And I
are you calling out Pete? Please say you're calling out Pete. No. Call him out.
No, I haven't here.
But I absolutely love the look on somebody's face when you get out and they say, "I had X amount of dollars in that Imperial, and you made absolute junk of it in 5 minutes." I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Blizzard Bash this year, absolutely. Pete's he's on Pete's team and everything. We went through the C main. And when we got to the C main, Team Black was there. There's 2 other teams in there, and it came down to us and Black, and we were battling it out. And Songaluski's car is just a brick shit house. I mean, it's just that 03, in my opinion, was probably the hardest 03 there. I mean, it was just filthy. And that cat, man, he didn't have much left when we got done, and we knew he was the car to beat. I mean, by far. The other cars were no slouches by any means either, but his was. I mean, when it pulled off the trailer, you could just look across the parking lot, all the way across the parking lot, and that car stood out. And I got on him. We stayed on him, and we went right after him. We took the repercussions on the backside of it, but he got out of that car. First thing he did is come up and shook my hand and said how good of a time he had. Wasn't upset. Best sportsman, one of the best sportsmen I've ever seen on the track. And, you got to give that guy kudos for that because he broke I believe he blew up a $9,500 engine out there that night. And he got out with smile ear to ear, and he said, that was fun. And when you get out and you get around people like that, that's what Derbying's all about.
Absolutely.
And, after a while, he might have said, "God damn, $9,500 down to $2," but he got out and he acted like a gentleman. Top notch in my books.
And the sad part is, there's so many that they get out and they're so upset and so mad and
Emotional.
Emotional. Good word, Josh. And they're not happy with what happened. I mean, I've blown motors up. I've had motors go up with 30-foot flames coming out of them, and I get out and I'm like, well, time to go back and get another one,
And what, $300?
Yeah, $300.
$300.
Yeah.
$300 and a few bolt-on parts, and we're ready to go.
But for anybody that's a driver that sometimes knows that maybe they get emotional, sometimes you got to look at yourself and say, look at all the bigger guys when they get out, whether they break something, whether they got driver door hit, whatever. They just get out and shake hands. I mean, because I've taken a lot of driver door hits, and I just go shake the hand. I don't forget it.
Right.
But I go shake a hand. And I think it's really important in our sport that we're out there on the track as gladiators, but when it's done, we can all be friends. You can shake each other's hand and duke it out again.
But what about?
I put a pretty good shot in the door up there at Blizzard Bash this year. So.
Yes, you did. I saw it last night on DVD.
For everybody that was watching on pay-per-view, and Jimmy is the one that we talked about that we thought got knocked out, and Jimmy's been derbying forever, and that's why
we
I'm
were
a little
concerned for him.
Yes.
Like, they're cutting this dude out of the car.
Well, Jimmy said when he came up to interview, he said real quickly, I think I saw stars for a second. And Chris and I kind of looked at each other because, no, you were laying on your steering wheel for 10 seconds. And I think, and Jimmy really did take a hard shot there, but it made me nervous to think, a guy that's been in the sport that long.
You didn't see stars. You time traveled.
Yeah, he did.
Now, wait a minute, Josh.
I didn't quite see him coming, and he got me off guard there for a second. But I didn't feel that it was a need to break his stick. I don't know if he meant to do it on purpose. I'd hate to think he did, but he could have. But don't break his stick. Let's finish this out on the track.
We are getting a little tight on time, but that is one of the things that we've talked about a lot with what we do in private circles. Is when you look big time, people treat you big time, and if you're getting out of the cars and you're running over and you're picking fights and stuff like that, there are sponsors that are watching these events that may keep their sponsor dollars in their pocket and not necessarily invest it, and that screws up things for everybody. That screws it up for the fair, for the promoter, for the officials, and it also blows it for the driver. So you need to act like you're a professional out there, and picking fights and stuff like that on the front stretch, Josh Decker, you can't be doing things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Josh, what happens when a guy is running at you with his fist pulled back?
You knock him out.
All right,
real quick. No. That's so funny. No.
And then
that only happens in Pennsylvania and New York. I mean,
you know what? You're right.
It is.
I haven't seen a lot of fights the other places that we've gone.
But
what about the small county fairs at the other places? I mean,
you still need. It doesn't matter, dude. You got to be. You got to be top line.
Jimmy, you would know better. I mean, the small fairs down there. Are there drama? Is there the drama of everybody wants to get out and fight after?
Oh yeah. You got it at every fair from.
For some reason,
everywhere, man. It's everywhere. You know what? I don't know if it's going to stop it. The sport getting bigger, and kind of weeding those people out a little bit, maybe. But we just got to get the sport going in the right direction and get it bigger, so we can get some real sponsorship, pulling the big money.
It really seems like there's a correlation between the caliber of driver on site and the amount being paid out. Yeah, the more money that's out there, it almost seems like you're drawing a better quality of individual who can handle themselves in a professional manner.
Right. Like you go to the Bash for Cash, or you go to Metal Mayhem, or Blizzard Bash. The guys that are at them shows are quality people.
Right.
I mean, there is no bullshit at the end of the night. You very rarely ever see it, and they're willing to help you.
Yeah.
Like I ran Mayhem last year. There was guys from Canada. I said it the last time. Come over and popped their tent over my car and was pulling 9-wire. I don't know these guys from Adam. Don't even remember.
Was that Rick Clark's crew?
I'm not really sure. I don't think so. No. I'm sorry I forgot their name, but thank you anyways.
Well, we'll see him. We'll see him in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And to touch on that, a few years ago, I took my then 5-year-old out to watch Metal Mayhem, and we were walking around in the pits, and what an absolute perfect time. I mean, people letting him sit in the cars, getting their picture taken. I wouldn't take him to half the county fairs around here and let him walk around in the pits before the Derby.
You're right, yeah.
But out at Metal Mayhem, absolutely. I had him with me all day long, and the guys out there were perfect.
But it's
them
also
are the future drivers there, and we got to get them interested in those cars. Let them sit in there and get a feel for it.
Well, my boy's already interested. He's counting down until he can drive in a youth car up here that they allowed him to drive at 12 years old. He's counting down the years.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
But I think when you go to these bigger show too, it's almost like going to dinner with your girlfriend's parents. You don't want to be, seriously, you're on your best behavior.
True.
No, and maybe it's just me. But when I went to the Blizzard Bash, you're not being stupid and loud, and it's like you're more like, let me learn. It's kind of more of a time to be smarter about yourself and act smarter and act better, because
good point.
That's just what you want. And I see what you're saying at county fairs. No one cares.
Right.
And you guys are right. County fairs sometimes kind of get, I don't want to use the word low class, but people are acting low class there. But at these bigger shows, you're not getting any of that. I don't see any of that.
Well, that's because I think some of that comes from from my perspective, that's how the fair looks at us. Not necessarily the whole fair board or whatever, but the fair looks at the Derby drivers as just that, Derby drivers. We don't mean anything. We're the only ones selling out the grandstands, but we don't mean anything. And they don't want to listen to us, and they don't want to make accommodations for us.
Yeah, what gets me, it burns me a lot, is where I started in my Derby career, Wayne County Fair. They'll pay $80,000 for monster trucks to come in there 2 nights and, for 45-minute shows. Absolutely. But they want to give us $600 to come smash cars, and we put 3 times the people on the grounds and give them 3 times the money, but they look at us like, oh, you're just a bunch of rednecks, you don't care.
And they charge us to run. I think the day of getting charged to run should be, gone. I think that if you're putting together a quality piece to come put on a show for somebody, I don't think that there should be an entry fee.
But I think that's what's cool about this show that we're doing here is hopefully these great ideas that Derby drivers will start sticking together and saying, like, that's a great idea. We should be doing that for Derby. And hopefully that starts to evolve the sport. Where you're right, Rick, that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore because we're not going to if you're going to give us $500, we're not showing up. We're going over here.
How many places do people go and pay to, fill somebody else's pockets?
I know.
Let's put a pin in the topic about entry fees because we'll talk a little bit more about that later on.
By later on, you mean another show, right?
Yeah.
This one's about over.
All
right, just check.
Okay, hold on. Real quick. Can I say, Chris, this is one of the best shows I think we've ever had. I know I say that almost every time the show's done, but
yeah, it's because we keep getting better.
We do. Maybe that's what today has probably been like the coolest group. I want to have us all back as a group. I could talk to you guys forever. I like to hear what Jimmy's got to say from across the country, but then we have great guys on this side here. I love today's show.
I got to say, Jimmy, it's very nice to hear you on the phone. I've never met you. You seem like a good stand-up quality guy, and I'd look forward to being able to meet you someday, in person and shake your hand.
Oh, well, man, the feeling is mutual, and I look forward to getting up there one of these days. And, sometimes with the business and stuff, I get up towards Pennsylvania and stuff like that. I might have to make the trip up and see you guys and make sure that I get
bring a parka because it's cold.
That's what I've seen, man. It was 60 here today, so I
60.
We'll be down tomorrow.
But a week ago it was 17. So
yeah, a week ago it was 20 below here. So.
I was going to say it was 6 this morning when I went out and started my truck for work.
Well, we got a little thing around here. If you don't like the weather in Kansas, wait 15 minutes. It'll change.
Yeah. So. Fire up your barbecue. We'll be down in a couple days.
We are going to be. I think Team Kansas and a group of guys we're going to be going to Razorback Rumble.
That's our next big day
in Arkansas, so we'll see you guys down there, Josh, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Oh, Jimmy, I'm not going to miss it. I'm not going to tell anybody that you said I could drive your car.
Okay.
Right.
I would really love to go, but my wife and my boy came with me here tonight, and he's going to be 12 this year.
Can you? Oh, I was going to say.
He's old enough to drive a youth car.
I was going to say.
Yeah, he's been driving me nuts. He wants a youth car, so Dad's going to put him together a youth car. It'll be his first year, But my wife told me
it's going to be the
I
first
want to go to
tilted
Razorback Rumble, and just kind of feel out the new inspectors, for DI and stuff, and see what's going on. And she told me no, and it was the first time in my life my wife told me no.
Ask her again on air.
It's gonna. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's gonna be that youth car is gonna be the first tilted aluminum ever shown.
Exactly. With a pointy on it.
with a red line motor. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
I don't want to put my son in a small
red line
car.
4-cylinder.
No, Pete.
I don't want to put my kid in a small car.
Like a
I want to put him in an
car.
Imperial.
That is a question I'd love to ask you guys, like Pete and Jimmy, that have ran numerous Fords. I've only ever ran one. I have ran some compacts, and I'll tell you, you feel the hits with the compacts more. Now, is it the same with the Fords versus like an old iron, Imperial or Shocker or something? Do you feel the shots in those Fords more than you would in an Imperial?
Most definitely.
It's lighter, so everything runs through the car faster. So it just seems like you get thrown around a lot more in that car will just get bust across the arena, where an old iron or like an old Imperial that weighs 4,600 pounds, it gets hit, it rocks the car, but the car takes the blast and it puts it to the ground. When you get it, the car lifted clean off its tires, it seems like it impacts the driver a lot more inside.
Right. And I kind of figured that would be the case, and I don't know if this old body of mine can take that. I do have a Ford to build this year, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to try, hope to put it together halfway decent and run it pretty hard and learn about them.
I'm an old guy, old iron guy from way back. I built my first one for this Keystone Nationals. I'm telling you what, I never hurt so bad after a derby. Even after a WeGo, when you guys teed off, I had black and blues everywhere. If I ran that car down there,
you got black and blues from the party Saturday.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy, Jeremy Gully.
So do I, dude. My whole legs are all.
Oh, right in here.
Glad I missed that.
What's
part
up with
party.
that guy?
Yeah,
Glad I missed that part.
He's not right in the head. There's no doubt about it. He walked around paying people cash. He had cash in his hand, and he would give people money and then say, do this to Josh Stecker. And people would take the money and then do it to Josh Stecker.
Well, your buddy Matt Poorman did the same thing. He paid some girl to come up and ask for your autograph.
I was so in shock because she actually looked pretty good, so it's like, you really?
She was 12, but
shut up. Hey, Rick. That's Rick. We're on TV. Tons of people are seeing this.
Sounds like you're more of their comedy relief up there.
No, I don't enjoy it.
Oh. All right, well, we are way late. I did want to just take a minute. We did the Smash Empire Films Year-End Awards. If you ran an in-car camera, it makes you eligible for any one of the year-end awards. Last year we did 5. The compact guys did such a great job. We gave the compact guys a division of their own, so we did 10 awards this year. Winning the Most Improved Award, which is basically showing the most improvement. Leo Carney got it in the compact division for his work at the Northeast Championship. Ran a bunch of in-car cameras through the course of the week, and then moving up from the compact ranks to the full size and running both limited weld and the economy stock class at Hartford Fair. Kyle Herbert, he got the Most Improved Full Size Award. Hard Luck Award went to Joe Myers in the compact division. He had a AMC wagon that was shortened by about 3 feet in terms of width, and he ended up he was hurt pretty bad. At the Northeast Championship, he drove all the way in from Ohio with this car, and then ended up having to spend the night in the hospital. It was a rough deal, yeah. So he got hard luck. Jody Ashline, he had a car up at Malone, got the in-car camera. He got the car out there. He had like 6 of his buddies on the track. It took like maybe 15, 20 minutes to get going, so we had a ton of extra roll. And they dropped the green flag. He put it in reverse, and the thing never moved again. So it was some real tough luck there. Showman of the Year award, basically, this isn't necessarily somebody who won, but somebody who really got the crowd on their feet. Guy Raymond in Compacts won that hands down for the work that he did at Black Rock in the spring. And we had a camera on him a couple times through the course of the year. He did a really nice job. At one point, he hit Andy Brown so hard nose to nose that it ripped the chains out of the hood, and the hood wrapped up around the dude's front window, and he got it front and center.
The guy always runs hard.
Eric Remington is another guy who did the same thing. We had the camera on his car a couple times, and he won the Showman Award. But he actually asked me specifically what award did I get and what was it for. And he got to the other end of the track and hit Jim Prill and shoved a Cutlass bumper up to the back window, and then the rest of the car went over the wall in one shot.
It was a great shot.
Pretty impressive. And he did a great job. And that was the hardest award to give out this year because we had Dave Early with his Lincoln.
Oh, yeah.
There was some really good contenders, and that was really difficult to put together. Driver of the Year, Dave Baker. He won the economy stocks, and then he also at Metal Destruction 4, and then he also won the compact division at the Keystone Nationals. So he gets the compact award. Pete Hansen, we talked about that a little bit earlier for winning both the Keystone Nationals and the Hartford Fair Driver of the Year.
Pete deserved that
big time.
There's no doubt. I don't think one person would have voted against Pete.
No, it was hard to argue with that.
Congratulations on that, Pete.
Adam Porter got the Newcomer Award, which is Made Junk Got Famous. He did a great job with a minivan at Waterloo, and I want to put a camera on his car again because if he drives like that next year, when I see him, he's going to turn some stuff inside out. And then Hit of the Year went to Sean Gokenauer out of Virginia for what he did with
that was awesome.
When that tire landed on the front. And Hit of the Year DVD is going to be coming out probably in March, so you guys will be able to see all that stuff.
Chris, cool. I'm sorry I didn't get a better hit for you this year.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy.
Maybe you should drive harder, right?
We pretty much used up everything we had this year. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Chris, one more thing. Justin Gilmartin wanted to assure you that the transmission in Jake's car wasn't going to burn out at Waterloo.
I understand.
All right, he just wanted to let you know.
I know.
Okay.
Chris,
it was just a point. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
What we need to do, Chris, is we got to get like one of these manufacturers out there. I've been seeing they've been making these really killer GoPro mounts.
Mm-hmm.
They should donate some to you.
Well,
Great idea.
It's something we could think about.
You know,
So I can
'cause-
put them in my car.
Actually,
mine got broke.
Your mount got broke?
Yeah, you posted
When?
it. Hartford. When me and LB Fitzjuchak went
broke.
together.
Oh, it didn't. All it did is it got hit so hard that it slid. That's all.
Gotcha.
That's all. Yeah.
Well,
But we really are out of time, guys. We do have to get out of here. So, thanks a lot for everything. We appreciate
Thanks,
it,
Jimmy.
and we'll.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you got it, guys, and we'll see you next
Thanks
week.
for having us, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
No.
That's gonna do it for this edition. We'll see you next week.